morning. My name is Dr. Fred, and I'm an expert in telehealth education and communication. I also want to say that I possess the secret, the telehealth secret that you came in here to get this week. And I'm going to reveal that to you at the end of this talk. But first I want to tell you a story. Ever since I was a child, I've just been like amazed and in love with the whole notion of communication. I remember watching people get together, you know, after having problems with each other or problems with circumstances or problems with whatever life was dealing up for them. And then they would share words together and then those problems would disappear. Like they'd be yelling and screaming or crying or desperate, and then they'd have a conversation that would disappear. And I thought, wow, that's what I want to do for a living. That's what I want to do for my life. I want to learn how to do that. I want to be that. So even as a student in junior high, people used to come to me, you know, and share their problems, share their concerns, share whatever was happening with their friends, with school, with the community, with their family. And I loved listening and sharing with them. And we both would benefit. And I thought, you know, when I get to high school, they're going to actually show me how to communicate. This will be great. Well, then came high school. I was so excited, and I got there, and within a week or two, I realized that that wasn't the purpose of high school at all. And in fact, my communication, not only was it not being emphasized, it was being discouraged. So the classrooms weren't actually focusing on this communication thing, which I knew was at the heart of all of humanity. So I thought, I know, higher education, college, university, that's where I'm going to learn how to communicate. So I thought to myself, what college? Where do I go to get this? And the only college I knew, the best college in the world where I was living, was the University of Michigan. So I did everything I could to get into the University of Michigan, and in fact got in. I was so excited because when I got to Ann Arbor, I knew that I would learn how to communicate. Well, it didn't happen there either. I got to Ann Arbor and realized that the classrooms weren't built for communication and that I wasn't going to get the fill. And I still was desperately, desperately interested in learning how to communicate. So after a few years, I actually left Ann Arbor and I went home. I'm like, Mom, Dad, what am I going to do here? They're not showing me what it is to be a true human. I want to learn how to communicate. So my mom got me a job at a psychiatric ward, a mental health ward in a state hospital. This next January will mark 40 years ago that I got that job. And I loved that job. I worked the afternoon shift as a child care worker, and what was I doing? I was communicating with children. I was changing their world, they were changing my world, and communication indeed was the source of healing. I submit right now, as a matter of fact, that communication, connection, is the source of all healing, all specialties. I loved that job, and I was like, I'm not gonna stay a child care worker the rest of my life, though. I'm gonna climb the ladder. I wanna do this exquisitely. So I'm going to be a doctor, and I'm going to be the kind of doctor who specializes in communication. I know what it is. I'll be a psychiatrist. So I did what I could, and in fact, got into medical school, and then in fact, got into a psychiatric residency. And I was so excited now, because for sure, I was going to be at the top of the game of learning how to communicate. Unfortunately, however, that was the time there was a paradigm shift going on in the world of psychiatry. Prozac was introduced while I was in medical school. And psychiatry all of a sudden became the non-communicating science. In fact, the only time a psychiatrist got a referral was when communication by other disciplines was no longer working, and they wanted me to make a diagnosis and become a biological, chemical imbalance specialist. So that's what I became. After all, it was my lifeline. But I was always discouraged. Maybe you can see that. I would come home and still just be driven to communication. Well, there was another technological industrial revolution going on, and that was in the world of computers. So I would come home and play on my modem. I would come home and actually play backgammon with people in Asia before Windows. And then I was just like, oh, this is great. I love it. And people were, and then, then Windows came, and then CompuServe and AOL, and people started like just coming in droves to these chat rooms. 10,000, 100,000, millions. People just desperately interested in connecting to other people. And as I began to introduce myself as a mental health worker, people started coming to me with their problems and their issues and their thoughts of ideas of, ways that I could help them. And I was getting my fix of being in communication, but it was off work. At some point, I got that these two things should meet. This computer thing, this mental health thing, they should meet together. It'll be a spectacular, like, chocolate and peanut butter. It's like, maybe someday. And while I've been thinking over the last 20 years of how that would happen, everyone else figured out that it already happened. It's great. So we're now here at Telehealth, Telehealth Secrets. And communication is at the center of telehealth. So how do you become a master? Well, while I was behind the screen at AOL, I began to communicate effectively, and I began to roll this into my practice. And one of the things I got doing was, well, how in the world am I going to combine these things? And they started combining it for me. They started being like, I could get asked questions, like specific questions, and answer them, type them back within a day or two, and that could work for some people. And then we started getting video technology. And as we fast forward now, we can get that with the clarity and the fidelity that's presently available, we're actually almost online, almost on real time. It is available now to be online and barely notice the difference. So, in 2008, I started to realize that my conventional practice was no longer serving me as well. So I went off and became a telepsychiatrist. And I now have done thousands of hours of telepsychiatry, and I've been a telepsychiatrist all over this country. In fact, at times, don't tell anybody, from outside of this country, I've delivered telepsychiatry to fun places in the world, to fun places, into urban areas, suburban areas, into prisons, into inpatient units and outpatient clinics. It's been spectacular, and what has occurred is the reemergence of communication. Oh yeah, that secret I wanted to tell you about. You may think the secret that I'm about to tell you about is that communication and connection is at the heart of all telehealth, but we all know that. That's not the secret. You want to know the secret? The secret is what's available online in communication and in connection is far superior than anything that has ever been available conventionally and in the same room on the ground. What am I saying? It's not just a poor substitute. It's actually superior, profoundly superior in some occasions for communicating and connecting. With the ease, with the safety, authenticity, genuineness, even the disinhibition that happens when we're communicating effectively online. There's never been a time like this. So there's a couple slides that are missing here, and that's part of my disturbance. I'm the founder of masteringtelehealth.com, and my job is to assist and to facilitate people in delivering exceptional care, in delivering exquisite care, extraordinary care online, in the world of communication and connection, because that's where the heart of the matter is. That is the foundation of health delivery. We already have, indeed, all the technology to support that, and it's re-entered how important it is to be able to communicate. I'm also the founder of another agency, or another brand, if you will, called welcometohumanity.net. And these two things now also combine like peanut butter and chocolate. Because as it turns out, at the source of all human experience is communication. And today, given the technology and given the industrial revolutions that we have not only survived, but we're prospering from, we've reached the point where we can deliver care that has never before even been conceived or imagined. So utilize the technology that you've been learning about this week. And if you really want to effectively increase your effectiveness 10 times, start looking deeply at all the things that are available inside of this online technology. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, time for one quick question. Okay.
Thank you again. As a psychiatrist, appreciate your talk. I guess two quick questions. One, can you give us the rest of the steps, the 10, and why do you see the online technology as greater than in person?
Right. So the steps are really just to be present, create, communicate, recreate, listen, and then repeat. Like, that's the steps that are available. And they were there beginningly. I mean, they were there when you began, or when your company began to communicate with patients or recipients or clients or whatever you're working with. The superior nature, it comes mostly from, you might notice that when you get online with someone, even on Facebook or on FaceTime or on Skype or whatever, VC or Zoom, whatever you're using, that you can get started right away. You see, we're wired to be concerned when we're in the same room about the other person thinking of us and all the things we have to do to get out of the way. But these distractions are removed when we're online. And we're not wired to think that the box that we're looking at is actually watching and dealing with us. We're wired in a unidirectional way. And so when we speak to a box, there's a new level of comfort, a new level of ease, a new level of safety, authenticity, and genuineness that actually can't be found when we're together like this. There's just too much to deal with when we're together, and that it's precisely what's sort of not in the way that gives us the possibility of really being able to hop right into action. There are times where I can go ahead and it's seemingly do 3 months or 6 months of work in one session by just being with someone and just getting right deep into it without dealing with all the distractions. There are many other reasons, but that's a short answer.
Great. Thank you so much for the great talk.